Hey Rifters, welcome to the show. Um, don't really enjoy doing these tribute shows. It's um it's not really funny or interesting. Uh, and I think like that's why I like Razor Riffs is because it's funny and interesting. But I lost a really good friend. Uh, he wasn't really a friend, he was more family. Um, Great comic, Mel Garcia. Um, there's so many things to say about Mel. He really was a huge influence in my life, not just as a comedian, but as a person and as a friend. I can't tell you how many times Mel had my back. I posted this story in my tribute to Mel earlier, but I wanted to share it to the listeners. So Mel used to book the Hollywood Improv, the Spanglish show with Paul Rodriguez, and he also booked the Long Beach Improv. And Mel had me headline the Long Beach. I'm sorry, not the Improv, the Laugh Factory. I apologize. The Laugh Factory. And Mel had me headline the Long Beach Laugh Factory, and Paul was there, so he had me go up before Paul. Paul didn't really get to see my set, and Mel booked me at the Hollywood Laugh Factory, and like the following day, and then so I was driving to the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, which is like a 2 hour drive because of traffic. And on the website, my name was taken down, and I didn't know what was going on, so I called Mel, and Mel didn't know what was going on either. What ended up happening was the Laugh Factory dropped everyone on the show and hired two comedian promoters to rebook everything. And they didn't tell Mel, they didn't tell Paul, they didn't tell me. So I was kind of upset. And Mel said, "Don't worry about it. We'll get you on the show because Paul wants to see you." So we get there, the Laugh Factory says I'm not on the show, but they're being cool. They said that I could stay and watch the show as a comic, and these two comics who took over the show, they weren't really nice to me. They were kind of just like, well, we just rebooked it to have the comedians we wanted on, which is fine. I get that. But they could have, especially for friends on it, Facebook or Instagram, they could have messaged me or something, but they didn't. So Mel gets there, and Mel says, um, "I don't know what you guys are doing, but I opened for Paul Rodriguez, and this is Paul's show, so I'm on the show." And these guys kind of threw like a little fit, and then Mel said, "By the way, Keith Reza is also on the show, and if not, I'm gonna give up my spot, and that will piss off Paul." So I ended up getting a spot, and Paul watched my set and I killed it, and Paul offered me work. So then I started opening up for Paul. And I opened up for Paul for about, I want to say 3 or 4 months. And why I stopped opening up for Paul was because I kind of got into it with another comedian that Paul was taking on the road named Sergio, who is one of the worst comedians I've ever seen, if I'm being honest. And Mel was kind of like the that really hurt me because I don't know why I wasn't doing the show. So Mel told me to give him a call whenever I want and we'll talk. And we talked. And me and Mel became super close because Mel was fighting for me to stay with Paul on the tour because Mel thought me, him, and Paul were the best shows. And to be honest, they were the best shows. And, I loved working with Mel and just hanging out. And then Mel also opens up for Pablo Francisco. So whenever I also open up for Pablo. So whenever like it was just the best of both worlds. We were both on the same tours and we were both opening up for Paul and Pablo Francisco. And it was just great. Mel gave me so much stage time and he gave me so much time to really adapt my new set when it's hard to get those spots, especially when you're someone on my level. So it's very hard to get those sets, and Mel gave me so much time and you know spots. And whenever Paul wouldn't show up for the Long Beach, every now and then he would call me to close it. I don't know what's going to happen with the Spanglish show in Long Beach. I don't know who's going to take over that. I don't know if Paul's going to run it himself or Paul's going to have someone else run it. I mean, maybe all volunteer, but I don't know these things. Um, what I do know is I lost a great friend and a mentor in many ways. Like he really taught me how to be a better person and how to be more professional towards comics. Like I said, I kind of got into it with another comic, and Mel talked me through it. And, there's certain instances where it really did upset me to the point where, like, I don't understand. Because in my book, I thought me and this other comic were cool, but like I said, there's so much history and circumstances that it became kind of toxic and kind of childish. And I don't feel I had anything to do with it. But, if you ask this comic, maybe he thinks I did. But whatever, that's neither here or there. Mel just really helped me cope with it. And we would talk comedy, stories, jokes and stuff. I remember I did piss Mel off one time because I was playing with a cigarette when I was on stage and I didn't light it and I didn't smoke it, but it was very weird. I had no idea what I was doing. And I just kind of like the jokes just I would tell a joke and I'd play with the cigarette and I was trying to confuse the audience about what reality versus what a prop is. And it did not work. It backfired 100%. And Mel got so upset with me because he had to follow me and I bombed really bad. Like this was probably like I don't bomb a lot anymore, but this one I bombed. I was eating crickets. People probably walked out. I didn't even like it was, you bombed when you feel so horrible because usually when I bomb, I'll be like, oh, well, the audience didn't get me. This was a bomb, ladies and gentlemen. This was really bad. This was like one of my, it reminded me of like one of my first shows, like sets. That's how bad it was. And Mel got so upset. Oh my God, he was so mad. And we kind of got into it and you know, we made up and stuff, but I just remember like I don't remember word for word what we were yelling at each other about, but I remember I was like, "Calm down, Melvin." And you should have seen the face. Like he was so mad because he hated being called Melvin. And then he started calling me by my legal name, which I hate. And then after that, we just like both looked at each other and we just laughed. Um, because it was funny because we both like hit each other in a sore spot or something. But that's how cool Mel was, man. Like Mel was, yeah, he was great. And I interviewed him on my podcast, Razor Riffs, with Victor Pacheco. And Mel was so proud of this movie he wrote with Paul. Uh, it's called Holy Cash, and it used to be called uh, Redeem Me or something, and it has Jay Moore in it and stuff. And Mel loved it. He loved writing it and he loved producing it, and he that was like one of his joys. So like when he was promoting it, he was really plugging it hard. Um, when Mel lost his father, that really took a huge hit on him. That happened about a year, maybe 2 years ago. And it like it, he just cried in my arms when I gave him a card that said, "I'm sorry for your loss." And every Christmas, I would give Mel a card just thanking him. Or if it was a big show, I got him a card just to thank him. That was something I did learn from Jay Moore is on big things always let the person who set it up that you appreciate them. And that was the thing about Mel was I appreciate him no matter what. He helped me book the Mamba. He helped me book the Rec Room. I booked Paul a couple times, and Mel was best friends with Paul. And sometimes Paul would leave me on red, and I didn't have a relationship with Paul where I could just book him individually. Like I remember Paul got mad at me because I kept asking him to do Razor Riffs, and he told me he would do it. He's never done it. And I kind of think that kind of hurt my friendship with Paul. And Mel kept saying he'll do it and just get on me. And I never got really on Mel because the vibe I got with Paul, like it was very hurtful. So I didn't want to like put that on Mel. But I know if I really asked Mel, Mel would have had Paul do it. And I just didn't because I didn't want to put Mel in that spot. Um, I remember Mel would get all upset with Pablo sometimes where like he'd be like, "How much did you pay Keith and how much did you pay me?" And Pablo would always like kind of not tell him he paid me standard and stuff just to make Mel feel better and stuff. But we had some great times, man. Just hanging out outside the Bray Improv, Oxnard, the Laugh Factory, just talking. Uh, Temecula, the Salute Lounge. I mean, it was just so much fun. I remember me, Mel, TJ, because TJ did a show the same night Paul did a show, and we were just talking about how this room is cool, but also not cool. And it was kind of funny, and it was one of the best nights of my life because when you just hang out with your friends, that's really all that matters. And the comedy community loved Mel. Like he he helped so many comedians and he didn't hurt anyone. He didn't backstab anyone. He just wanted to help comics. And that was the beauty about Mel was like his heart was just too good. Yeah, he would kind of like trash talk a little, but he didn't do it in a way where like, oh, this person, like he kind of did it in a funny way where like it was kind of roasting. Like if they were in the room, he'd say it, but it'd be more roasty style, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, I mean, so many comics were touched by Mel, and a lot of them were more closer to him than I was. And I've lost so many people in my life. I lost my grandfather, Pop. I lost Norm. I lost Alan, and it does affect you where it comes to you in waves. And I visited Mel at the hospital yesterday, and I said my goodbyes, and I let him know I loved him because I kind of knew that that was it. And it really hurts when you see a friend go. And that was the cool thing about Mel was he wasn't a friend, he was family. And you always lit up when you saw him because he was just the nicest person. So my heart is with every comedian who he touched, his family. Mel loved the Dodgers and he loved his family. Um, his girlfriend, Marlene. Um, my heart is with Paul Rodriguez, um, and Pablo Francisco. And when I told Mel that I got John Cusack to do Razor Riffs, he was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it!" And he's just like freaking out and stuff. It was so cool. He was like, "I wish I could get John Cusack on the Fraser Smith show." It was so cool because Mel could get anybody on any show, and that was like, haha, I out got somebody. And like I recently went through a situation with this girl who I hired at the Mamba. Her name was Haley, and I liked her. I thought she was cool, and I hired her to be my assistant. And then it got really weird. Like, long story short, she's had a boyfriend the whole time, and she had her boyfriend come to the show, and then she tried to play games at the show. And I think it pissed her off because I don't really play games. And so I told Mel about this whole story, and it got pretty intense. And then Mel just like, he just looks at me and he's like, she sounds like a bitch. And it was just so funny because that's how Mel was. He made it seem like no matter what, you were right in any situation. And he used humor to make you feel like that. And Mel always had this joke. He always got mad when I wore my red sports hat that Norm gave me because he thought I was like a Trump supporter. And I always said, yeah, it's a sports hat. And like Mel hated Trump, but he'd always do that. And then when he introduced me, like on shows, he'd be like, "Everyone who he opens for dies," and it's kind of funny, but it's also sad. And my sister's calling me. 1 second. Sorry, guys. My sister called. I'm not editing this one because I don't really just want to get it out there and get my thoughts out. Um, so he got mad when I wore the red hat, and he always. I mean, man, when Mel Garcia introduced you on a show, there's no better feeling. Like Mel introducing you was better than a sound guy introducing you because he made you feel like you were a rock star, regardless if the crowd was like seven people or if it was sold out. Mel was fantastic. And one of my favorite jokes Mel did is is do any does anyone have a birthday? And then the crowd would clap, and then Mel would be like, "Well, on behalf of myself and the other comics, no one gives the F word, the fuck. No one gives a fuck." It was just so funny. And then he had this joke about this kid was born with no eyelids, and they had to take some of the processed skin off his balls so he could have eyelids, and now he could see, but he's a little cockeyed. I totally butchered it, but that it was just so funny because he'd always leave it on cockeyed. But but yeah, I'm gonna miss you, Mel, and you know, that's all I can really say is I'm gonna miss you, and I thank you for everything you did. So, bye. Sorry, that was the mailman. Maybe I should have this one edited. I don't know. But Mel, I just wanted to say I love you, man. And thank you for everything. And be well, my brother.